The Level 1 Detective. Chapter 1. The Corpse That Would Not Fade. Scene 1. The Analog Sanctuary. The rain in Neo-Seoul did not wash the city clean. It merely rearranged the grime. It was a heavy, acidic downpour, the kind that hissed when it hit the neon-soaked pavement of the lower ward. It tasted of copper and spent fuel cells, a chemical cocktail that coated the throat and stung the eyes. Outside the window, the holographic advertisements for Cyberdream implants flickered and buzzed, casting intermittent spasms of pink and electric blue light into the alleyway. Inside the office, however, the air smelled of cedar shavings and cheap bourbon. Rin sat behind his desk, a heavy slab of real oak that was worth more than the cybernetic arm of the bouncer standing guard at the strip club next door. In his hand he held a small yellow object. A pencil. With a small, rusted pocket knife, Rin shaved a curl of wood from the tip. Scritch, scritch. The sound was microscopic, a tiny friction that felt deafening in a world dominated by the silent hum of digital processors. He blew the dust away. The graphite point was sharp. Perfect. You are the only man in this sector who still uses dead trees to write, a voice said. Rin didn't look up immediately. He finished the stroke, placed the knife on the desk, and then slowly raised his eyes. Standing in the doorway was a woman. She was a masterpiece of biosculpting. Her cheekbones were high and sharp, likely reinforced with ceramic plating. Her eyes were a shade of violet that didn't exist in nature, equipped with optical zooms that whirred faintly as she scanned the room. She wore a coat made of smart fiber, currently shifting between slate gray and charcoal to match the gloom of the office. The door was locked, Rin said, his voice a low rumble roughened by years of unfiltered tobacco and silence. Your lock is a mechanical tumbler from the 2020s, the woman replied, stepping inside and closing the door behind her. The noise of the rain was instantly cut off, replaced by the rhythmic creak-creak of the ceiling fan. I picked it with a hairpin. It took 3 seconds. 4, Rin corrected. I heard you hesitation on the third pin. It sticks. He gestured to the empty wooden chair opposite his desk. Sit. If you're here to sell me insurance, I'm dying next week. If you're here to kill me, the gun is in the top right drawer, but it jams. The woman didn't smile. She sat down with a grace that was too fluid, too calculated. I am Elena, she said. And I am here because the police say my brother died of natural causes. Rin picked up the pencil and opened a notebook. Paper. Another relic. Natural causes in Neo-Seoul usually means an overdose of Stim-X or a cheap battery leaking into the bloodstream, Rin said, writing down her name. What's the brother's name? Jean, Elena said. Her voice caught on the name, a glitch in her composure. But you probably know him as Sun King. Rin stopped writing. The pencil hovered over the paper. He looked up, his dark, unmodified eyes narrowing. Sun King, Rin repeated. Rank 1 player of Elysium Online. Guild Master of the Solar Dynasty. Wielder of the Dragon Slayer sword. Net worth estimated at 4 million credits. You know him. I read the news, Rin lied. He didn't just read the news. He knew the stats. He knew the build. He knew that Sun King played a high-risk, high DPS, damage per second, class that relied on reflexes impossible for anyone over 25. He died this morning, Elena said. She reached into her coat and pulled out a data shard. She slid it across the oak desk. The official report says neurofry. Massive cerebral hemorrhage caused by a hardware malfunction during a full dive session. Rin picked up the shard but didn't slot it into his reader yet. He turned it over in his fingers. Neurofry is a myth, Elena. Or a rookie mistake. Modern rigs, especially the Omnipod Pro that a guy like Sun King would use, have a dozen fail-safes. If his heart rate spikes, it kicks him out. If the voltage fluctuates, it shuts down. To cook a brain, you'd need to disable safety protocols manually. Did he possess a death wish? Jean loved himself too much to die, Elena said bitterly. The violet light in her eyes trembled. He didn't kill himself. And it wasn't an accident. He was murdered. Murdered in the real world? Or in the game? Both. Rin leaned back in his chair, the wood creaking. If someone broke into his apartment and spiked his 4-drip, that's a homicide case. Go to the police. I'm a private investigator. I find cheating husbands and lost dogs. The police verified the physical security, Elena said, leaning forward. Her smart coat darkened to black, reacting to her distress. His apartment was sealed. Biometric locks. No entry, no exit. He was alone in the pod. But Rin, look at the data. Rin sighed. He slotted the shard into the antique reader on his desk. A holographic screen flickered to life in the dusty air between them. It was a screenshot. A high-resolution capture from inside the game world of Elysium. The setting was a tavern, a rustic fantasy style inn with wooden beams and candlelight. Lying on the floorboards was a figure clad in magnificent, glowing golden armor. The legendary Sun King armor. But the figure wasn't glowing with the aura of a hero. It was crumpled, broken, and it was bleeding. Blood in Elysium is light particles, Rin muttered, leaning in closer. When a player hits 0 HP, they shatter into voxels and respawn at the nearest shrine. The corpse despawns in 30 seconds to save memory. He pointed at the image. This is not light. The liquid pooling around the golden armor was black. Thick, viscous, and heavy. It looked like oil or tar. It stained the wooden floorboards of the game. The screenshot was taken 12 hours ago, Elena whispered. His avatar is still there, Rin. It hasn't despawned. The game code, it doesn't recognize him as dead, but it won't let him move. He is a corpse that the system cannot delete. Rin felt a cold prickle at the base of his neck, a sensation he hadn't felt in 10 years. The sensation of a glitch. A wrongness in the architecture of the world. He zoomed in on the chest of the armor. There was something carved into the gold plating. It wasn't a texture file. It looked like it had been scratched by a frantic, sharp object. Truth cannot respawn. Rin stared at the words. Truth cannot respawn, he read aloud. Who found him? A low-level player. A rookie who wandered into the tavern. He took the screenshot and posted it on the forums before the moderators deleted the thread. They are trying to cover it up, Rin. Omnicorp is calling it a rendering error. They locked the server region. But my brother is dead in the real world, and his ghost is rotting in the digital one. Rin pulled the shard out. The hologram vanished, leaving them back in the dim analog gloom of the office. This is impossible, Rin said, standing up and walking to the window. He looked out at the rain through the blinds. To kill someone via a Neuralink, you would need to bypass the hardware limiters, override the pain dampeners, and introduce a biofeedback loop strong enough to stop a heart. You would need admin privileges. Or a virus. Or a weapon, Elena said. Rin turned around. A weapon. There are rumors. On the darknet. Rumors of a Godslayer item. An item that deals damage not to the avatar but to the user. Rin scoffed. Urban legends for bored teenagers. Code cannot cut flesh, Elena. Then explain the corpse, she challenged him. Explain why the #1 player in the world is lying dead in a tavern, and the game engine can't wipe him away. Explain why his brain was cooked inside a safety-rated pod. She stood up, walking over to him. She placed a heavy hand on his shoulder. Her grip was strong, industrial servos hidden under synthetic skin. I did my research, Rin. I didn't come to you because you're cheap. I came to you because of who you were. Rin stiffened. I am a PI. Nothing more. 10 years ago, Elena said softly, her voice dropping an octave. Before the Great Patch. Before the corporate buyout of the servers. You were Ghost. The first player to solo the Tower of Pain. The man who found the lost level. Rin closed his eyes. The name hit him like a physical blow. Ghost. He saw the flashes of memory he had spent a decade trying to drown in whiskey. The raid. The laughter. The sudden, screeching static. The face of his partner, Kaito, freezing in a rictus of agony as the system crashed. Kaito hadn't died, but he hadn't woken up either. He was a vegetable in a state-run hospice, his mind fragmented by a code error that Omnicorp swore never happened. Ghost is dead, Rin said, his voice cold. He deleted his account. But he didn't delete his skills, Elena insisted. You know the code, Rin. You know the architecture of Elysium better than the developers. You see the cracks in the world that others ignore. She pulled a credit chip from her pocket and placed it on the windowsill. It was black platinum. Limitless. I don't want you to arrest anyone. The law can't touch this. I want you to find out how. How did they kill a god in his own kingdom? And I want you to find who wrote the message. Rin looked at the chip. It was enough money to buy his way out of the lower ward. Enough to buy real food for the rest of his life. But he wasn't looking at the money. He was looking at the reflection of the rain on the glass. He was thinking about the black blood. If someone had found a way to weaponize the game, if someone had found a way to turn the fantasy into a slaughterhouse, then Kaito's accident wasn't an accident. It was a prototype. I have conditions, Rin said, not turning around. Name them. 1. I work alone. No guild support. No parties. No healers watching my back. Agreed. 2. I don't use your equipment. If your brother's rig was compromised, yours might be too. I use my own gear. Elena frowned. Your gear? Rin, the tech in this office is from the Dark Ages. An old dive visor won't even render the new textures properly. You'll be lagging. I don't need to see the textures. Rin tapped his temple. I need to see the wireframe. Old gear has fewer filters, less corporate polish. It shows the world as it is, not as they want you to see it. Fine, Elena nodded. Anything else? 3. Rin turned to face her. His face was a mask of grim determination. If I find out this is a publicity stunt for the guild, if I find out Jean is faking his death for views, I will burn your reputation to the ground. Elena's face hardened. A tear, a real saline tear, leaked from her violet eye. Find him, Rin. Find the person who wrote that on his chest. She turned and walked to the door. Oh, and Rin, she paused with her hand on the knob. The game has changed since you left. It's not just code anymore. The AI, the NPCs, they've evolved. Don't trust anything just because it has a script. I don't trust anyone, Elena. That's why I'm still alive. She left. The door clicked shut, sealing out the noise of the city. Rin stood in the silence of his analog sanctuary. He looked at the pencil on his desk. He picked it up and snapped it in half. Snap. The sound was final. He walked over to the corner of the room, pushing aside a stack of old newspapers. Underneath was a dusty, heavy chest. He unlocked it. Inside lay a VR rig. It was bulky, scarred with scratches, and modified with illegal bypass chips. It was a Mark IV neural dive unit. A relic. A Widowmaker. Rin ran his hand over the helmet. It smelled of old sweat and ozone. 10 years, he whispered to the empty room. He sat in his chair. He didn't clean the unit. He didn't run a diagnostic. He wanted the grit. He pulled the helmet over his head. The foam padding was stiff. The connectors dug into his skull. He reached for the activation switch. His hand hovered. This wasn't a game anymore. It was a crime scene. And he wasn't going in as Ghost, the legendary hero. He couldn't. That profile was too high profile, too watched. He needed to be invisible. He needed to be nobody. He flipped the switch. The hum of the capacitors rising was a sound he hadn't realized he missed. It was the sound of leaving the pain of the real world behind. System initializing. Neural link established. Warning, hardware obsolete. Experience may be degraded. Ignore, Rin muttered. Welcome to Elysium. The darkness of the office dissolved into blinding white light. The smell of cedar and bourbon vanished. Rin took a breath. He wasn't breathing air anymore. He was breathing data. And somewhere in that ocean of code, a killer was waiting. System login, synchronizing neural pathways. Welcome to Elysium. The transition was not a drift. It was a violent shove. One moment, Rin was sitting in his damp, cedar-scented office. The next, he was standing in a void of blinding white light. Gravity felt different here. Lighter, cleaner, artificial. The air didn't smell of rain and old cigarettes anymore. It smelled of absolutely nothing. It was the scent of a vacuum waiting to be filled. A holographic interface bloomed in front of him, floating in the emptiness. Character creation. A default avatar stood before him. A generic male, muscular, handsome in a bland, mathematically perfect way. Sliders for height, jawline, and skin tone pulsed, inviting him to craft a fantasy. Rin stared at it with disdain. He didn't come here to be a hero. He came here to be a ghost. Randomize, Rin commanded. His voice sounded crisp, filtered through the system's audio processors. Warning, randomization may result in suboptimal aesthetics. Confirm? Confirm. The avatar blurred and reshaped. The jaw softened, the shoulders slumped, the hair turned a thinning gray. The resulting man looked like a tired accountant who had lost his wallet. Perfect, Rin muttered. Now class selection. 3 golden pedestals rose from the floor. The warrior, clad in shining plate, holding a broadsword; the mage, robed in silk, wreathed in arcane fire; the rogue, hooded, holding twin daggers. Rin ignored them. He swiped the menu to the left, scrolling past the hero classes, past the crafters, past the merchants. He went to the bottom of the list, to the section marked Hardcore/Roleplay Only. He selected the icon that looked like a broken begging bowl. Class selected, Vagrant. Starting level, 1 attributes, all stats set to 1. Unique passive, invisible to the eye. Due to low social standing, NPCs and players are less likely to notice your presence unless you interact first. Description: you are the dust of the world. You possess nothing. Confirm, Rin said. Enter character name. He didn't hesitate. He wasn't Ghost anymore. Ghost was a legend, and legends attracted attention. He needed a name that sounded like a database error or a placeholder. V1. Character created. Transferring to starting zone, Riverwood. The white void shattered. Color assaulted him. Ren stumbled, his virtual boots hitting cobblestones. The world rushed in, a sensory overload of aggressive cheerfulness. He was standing in a town square. The sky was a piercing, unnatural blue, the kind that only existed in postcards or bad paintings. The sun was warm but lacked the sting of radiation. Birds sang in a looped, melodic pattern. Riverwood. The beginner village. But today the idyllic fantasy setting was ruined by the players. Instead of the usual bustle of newbies hitting training dummies, the square was packed with high-level avatars. Ren saw knights in demon-bone armor, wizards floating on magical carpets, and cyborg ninjas with glowing katanas, clearly cash shop cosmetics. They were all crowding around a single building, the Golden Flagon Inn. Ren checked his HUD heads-up display. HP 50/50ths. Mana, 0 divided by 0. Status, hungry. He adjusted his rags, a coarse, brown tunic that itched realistically. He began to push through the crowd. "Hey, watch it, trash mob!" A player named XX_Dragonslayer_6 shouted, shoving Ren aside with a pauldron made of glowing crystal. Ren stumbled but didn't fall. The physics engine calculated the impact, but his Vagrant passive kicked in. The player's gaze slid off him instantly, dismissing him as background noise. Perfect, Ren thought. I am part of the scenery. He reached the front of the inn. The entrance was blocked. A shimmering barrier of yellow light, a system lockdown tape, crisscrossed the door. 2 NPC guards stood like statues, their dialogue loops broken. Move along, citizen. Nothing to see here. Move along, citizen. Nothing to see here. Beyond the barrier, through the windows, Ren could see nothing but darkness. The interior rendering had been turned off for spectators. They locked the cell, Ren muttered. But every cell has a window. He stepped away from the main door, moving toward the alleyway that ran along the side of the tavern. The alley was narrow, smelling of simulated garbage and stale ale. Ren looked up. There was a window on the second floor, likely the guest rooms. Too high. But on the ground floor there was a small wooden hatch. The kitchen delivery chute. Ren knelt to inspect it. It was locked. You won't get in that way, old man, a voice chirped from the shadows. Ren didn't jump. He slowly turned his head. Sitting on a crate, blending almost perfectly with the texture of the brick wall, was a boy. Or rather, a player avatar that looked like a boy. He was a halfling rogue, barely 3 feet tall, playing with a dagger that spun between his fingers like a coin. Above his head, the gamer tag read, Glitch under Level 15. I'm just looking for scraps, Ren said, his voice adopting a wheezing NPC-like cadence. Save the roleplay for the forums, the kid snorted. He hopped off the crate. I've been watching you. You don't move like an NPC. Your pathfinding is too direct. And you checked the lock mechanism, not the loot barrel. Ren straightened up. The kid was sharp. You're a player, Glitch understood, accused, pointing the dagger at Ren. A level 1 vagrant? Seriously? Are you doing a 0 to hero challenge for a stream? Something like that, Ren lied smoothly. I heard Sun King died in there. I wanted to see if he dropped any loot. Glitch_kid laughed. Loot? Sun King didn't just die. He glitched. I was here when it happened. The server lagged so hard everyone in the tavern got disconnected. When we logged back in, the doors were sealed. The kid twirled his dagger again. I can pick that lock, Glitch said, nodding at the kitchen hatch. My thievery skill is maxed for my level. Why haven't you? Because of the guards out front, the kid pointed toward the street. The AI for the guards is set to high alert. If I start the lockpicking minigame, it takes 10 seconds. They'll hear the tumblers. They'll aggro attack me before I can finish. Ren looked at the guards. Then at the kid. You want to see inside, Ren said. I want to see inside. Let's trade. Trade what? You have nothing. I have a health bar, Ren said. And I have 0 dignity. Glitch tilted his head, his fox-like ears twitching. You're going to tank the guards? At level 1? They'll one-shot you. I don't need to survive, Ren said. I just need to keep them busy for 10 seconds. Can you open the door in 10? I can do it in 8. Then get ready. Ren didn't wait for a confirmation. He turned and walked back out to the main street. The crowd was still buzzing, speculating on forums about the lockdown. Ren took a deep breath of the artificial air. He needed to create a scene that the AI guards couldn't ignore. He spotted a stack of empty wooden barrels near a merchant's stall. Rin grabbed a barrel. He didn't have the strength stat to lift it properly, so he dragged it. The wood scraped loudly against the cobblestones. Scrape. The sound cut through the chatter. Players turned to look. Rin dragged the barrel right up to the two guards. Hey! Rin screamed, his voice cracking. This beer tastes like goblin piss. He hurled the barrel at the nearest guard. It bounced harmlessly off the guard's steel breastplate with a pathetic thunk. It dealt 0 damage. But the AI logic triggered instantly. Combat started, target acquired, V1, level 1. Halt, criminal. The guard roared, drawing a sword that glowed with magical energy. Come and get me, you tin cans. Rin shouted, turning and running, not away from the tavern but parallel to it, drawing the guards away from the alley entrance. The crowd cheered. Look at that noob go. Is he suicide running? The guard lunged. The sword slashed across Rin's back. Dash 45 HP, warning, critical health. The pain was dulled by the system settings, but Rin still felt the impact. A cold shock that knocked the wind out of him. He stumbled, falling into the mud. He had 5 HP left. One more hit and he was dead. He rolled onto his back, holding up his hands in mock surrender. The guards loomed over him, weapons raised for the execution. 1, 3. Rin counted in his head. He didn't need to fight. He just needed to be a spectacle. Suddenly, a notification popped up in the corner of his vision. System message. Party invitation from Glitch _. Glitch _ I'm in. Hatch is open. Stop dying. Rin smirked. He accepted the invite. I yield. Rin shouted at the NPC. The guard paused. The AI struggled with the surrender logic during a combat encounter initiated by an assault. While it processed, Rin used his Vagrant special ability. Play dead. He went limp. His health bar turned gray. To the AI, he was no longer a threat. He was terrain. Filthy drunk, the guard muttered, sheathing his sword and returning to his post. Rin waited until the crowd lost interest. Then he crawled. He crawled through the mud, around the corner and into the alleyway. The kitchen hatch was open. Glitch _ kid was gone. Rin squeezed through the small opening, dropping into the dark interior of the Golden Flagon. The inside of the tavern was dead silent. It was a stark contrast to the bright, noisy world outside. Here the rendering engine seemed to be struggling. The textures of the walls flickered. The candlelight was frozen, the flames not moving. Rin stood up, brushing the digital mud off his tunic. He pulled a small vial of minor healing potion, which he had pickpocketed from a distracted merchant outside, and drank it. His HP ticked back up to 30. Over here, Glitch _'s voice whispered. The rogue was standing by the main hearth. He was staring at the floor. Rin approached. There, in the center of the room, lay the Sun King. It was a magnificent avatar. The armor was legendary tier solar plate, intricate gold filigree glowing with an inner light. But the light was dimming. The avatar was lying on its back, limbs twisted at unnatural angles. And beneath him, spreading across the wooden floorboards, was the blood. But it wasn't the red voxel spray of normal combat. It was black. Like ink. Or oil. It had texture. It pooled in the cracks of the wood. It reflected the frozen candlelight. This isn't a texture file, Glitch whispered, reaching out to touch it but pulling his hand back at the last second. The game engine doesn't support fluid dynamics this complex. Look, it's eating the floor. Rin knelt beside the body. He looked at the chest of the armor. Scratched deep into the indestructible gold plate were words. They weren't typed. They were carved. Truth cannot respawn. Who could scratch solar plate? Glitch _ kid asked. That armor has infinite durability. You can't damage it without a god-tier weapon. Or an admin command, Rin murmured. Rin looked at the corpse's face. Sun King's eyes were open. But they weren't the standard character model eyes. The pupils were missing. The whites of the eyes were filled with scrolling red binary code. Rin reached for the corpse's right hand. It was clenched in a fist. Help me open this, Rin said. I'm not touching that, Glitch backed away. This whole room feels heavy, like the server is about to crash. Do it or I tell the guards you broke in. Glitch cursed, but he grabbed the thumb. Rin grabbed the fingers. They pried the hand open. The physics engine resisted as if rigor mortis had been coded into the game. With a snap, the fingers gave way. An object rolled out of the golden palm. Rin picked it up. Item identified, plastic token, rarity, trash. Description, a souvenir from a defunct theme park. It was a blue plastic coin. On one side, a cartoon bear smiled maniacally. On the other side, the faded words, Wonderland, where dreams never die. A token? Glitch_Kid frowned. Why was the richest player in the game holding a piece of trash? Wonderland, Ren whispered. The name triggered a memory in his detective's brain. The amusement park in District 9. It was shut down 20 years ago after the carousel incident. A dozen kids died when the rides malfunctioned. What does that have to do with Sun King? I don't know, Ren said, pocketing the token. But he wanted us to find it. He was holding it so tight. Bzzzzzt. A sound like a high-voltage cable snapping filled the room. The air pressure dropped. The frozen candle flames turned blue. V1. Glitch pointed at the corpse. It's moving. Ren looked down. Sun King's body wasn't moving. It was glitching. The golden armor began to distort, stretching and twisting like taffy. The black blood on the floor began to bubble. It rose up, forming tendrils that wrapped around the corpse. The scrolling code in Sun King's eyes stopped. It formed a single word. Invalid. A voice filled the room. It didn't come from the corpse. It came from everywhere. It was a digital screech, layered with a human whisper. User. Detected. Access. Denied. We need to go, Glitch said, panic rising in his voice. He tried to activate his stealth skill. Skill failed. Zone lockdown active. We can't leave. Glitch_Kid screamed. The doors are gone. Ren looked at the exit. The doors had vanished. The windows were gone. The walls were replaced by walls of static. The black blood formed a shape above the corpse. It coalesced into a giant, unblinking red eye. Protocol 0. Purge witnesses. The floorboards began to dissolve into code. The server is deleting the cell, Ren realized. It's scrubbing the crime scene. He looked at Glitch_Kid. The hatch. The kitchen hatch. Is it part of the room geometry or a separate object? It's a dynamic prop. Glitch_Kid stammered. It might not be linked to the building mesh. Go. They ran for the kitchen. The floor was disappearing behind them, revealing a white void of nothingness underneath. The red eye fired a beam of deletion code. It hit a table and the table simply ceased to exist. No explosion. Just gone. Ren shoved Glitch_Kid through the hatch. Go. Move. Ren climbed in after him. The red eye swiveled toward him. Target, V1. Identity, anomaly. The deletion beam fired. Ren didn't have time to dodge. He grabbed a heavy iron skillet from the kitchen rack, another dynamic prop, and held it up like a shield. The beam hit the skillet. The skillet vanished. But it bought Ren the split second he needed. He threw himself through the hatch, tumbling out into the alleyway mud. Inside, the tavern imploded. It didn't collapse. It folded in on itself, pixel by pixel, until there was nothing left but a square of flat, gray pavement where the building had stood. Silence returned to Riverwood. Ren lay in the mud, breathing hard. His heart, his real heart in the real world, was pounding against his ribs. Glitch_Kid was sitting against the wall, shaking. That wasn't a game mechanic, the kid whispered. That wasn't a boss. What was that? Ren sat up. He reached into his inventory. The token was still there. The deletion hadn't taken it. That, Ren said, standing up and brushing the digital dirt from his knees, was the murder weapon, and it just tried to clean up the mess. He looked at the empty space where the tavern had been. The players in the square were now staring at the empty lot, confused, their chat bubbles filling with question marks. We have a lead, Ren said, his voice grim. We're going to Wonderland. Are you crazy? Glitch_Kid stood up. I'm not going anywhere with you. I almost got deleted. You saw the red eye, Ren said calmly. It saw you too, kid. It scanned your ID. Do you think it's going to let you go just because you logged off? That thing, it hunts. Glitch_Kid paled. So, I'm a target? We both are, Ren said. He began to walk toward the town gate, not looking back. If you want to live, you stick with the only person who knows how to kill a ghost. Are you coming? Glitch_Kid hesitated. He looked at the empty lot. Then he looked at the retreating back of the level 1 Vagrant. Wait up. Glitch_Kid ran after him. But I'm taking 50% of the loot. Ren smiled. A thin, sharp smile. Deal. Safety in Elysium was usually denoted by blue zones. Towns, temples, guild halls. But for two fugitives marked by a red eye, safety was found in the cracks. Glitch_Kid led Ren away from the town, under the stone bridge of Riverwood, to a place the developers had likely forgotten to finish. It was a small, damp culvert where the texture of the water didn't quite meet the texture of the shore, leaving a jagged gap of gray void. "We can rest here," Glitch panted, collapsing onto a pile of digital driftwood. "The guard AI pathfinding can't navigate this geometry. We're off the grid." Ren sat down slowly. His HP was slowly regenerating, 20/50ths now, but his stamina bar was flashing red. The sprint had exhausted him. He looked at the boy. The halfling rogue was shaking, clutching his knees. "You okay?" Ren asked. "No, I'm not okay." Glitch snapped, his voice high and fearful. "I just saw a game master, tool delete a building. Do you know how much code that takes? And it looked at us V1. It marked us." "It marked me," Ren corrected, pulling a piece of stale bread, Vagrant starter item, from his inventory. "You were just collateral damage." "Collateral?" The kid laughed bitterly. "In this game, collateral gets banned. Or worse." Ren broke the bread in half. He tossed one piece to the kid. It restores 5 stamina." Glitch kid caught it. He looked at the dry, pixelated crust with disdain, but he ate it. "So," the kid chewed, "you said you know how to kill a ghost. Was that a lie?" "I said I know how to kill a ghost," Ren said, leaning back against the cool stone of the bridge. "I didn't say I could do it with a level 1 stick." He pulled the Wonderland token out of his pocket. In the gloom of the culvert, the blue plastic seemed to glow faintly. "This thing," Ren turned it over. "It's not just a souvenir. It's an anchor." "An anchor?" "When Sun King died," Ren explained, his detective mode taking over, "his avatar should have decompiled. But it didn't. Because he was holding on to this. This object, it has a higher priority code than the death sequence." He tossed the token to Glitch kid. "Inspect it." "Not the description. The metadata. Can you do that?" "I'm a rogue, not a hacker," Glitch grumbled, but he held the token up. He narrowed his eyes, activating a skill called Appraise. A window popped up. Item, Wonderland token, source, unknown, coordinates, Sector 9, the Forgotten Coast, status, key item cannot be destroyed. Sector 9? Glitch kid frowned. That's the high-level zone. Level 80 minimum. Monsters there will aggro you from a mile away. It's a suicide run for us. "That's where the park is," Ren said. "In the real world, the Wonderland Park was built on the coast. Whoever killed Sun King, they recreated the park inside the game. In Sector 9. Why? To hide something," Ren said. "Or to play a game within a game." Ren looked at the river flowing by. The water texture was looping every 3 seconds. A lazy bit of coding. "Kid," Ren asked, "why do you play this game?" Glitch kid paused. He looked at his dagger. "Real life sucks," he shrugged. "Here I'm fast. I have skills. I have gold. Out there, I'm just a kid in a wheelchair." Ren didn't flinch. He didn't offer pity. Pity was cheap. "Well," Ren said, standing up. "Here you're not in a wheelchair. You're the guy who just broke into a locked crime scene and outran a system purge." He held out his hand. "I need a guide, Glitch. I don't know the map. I don't know the meta. But I know how criminals think. You get me to Sector 9, and I'll make sure you get the biggest scoop in Elysium history." Glitch looked at Ren's hand. It was dirty, scarred, and belonged to a level 1 nobody. But the eyes were serious. "We'll die," Glitch had warned. "If we go to Sector 9, we will die 100 times. Then we better save our game," Ren smiled. Glitch kid took his hand. "System message, party formed. Leader, V1, member, Glitch "One problem," Glitch had said, standing up. "To get to Sector 9 we have to pass through the tutorial gate. And since you're level 1, the system is going to force you to do the tutorial." "I hate tutorials," Ren groaned. "This isn't a normal tutorial," Glitch grinned, a mischievous sparkle returning to his eyes. "Since the update, the tutorial instructor has been a bit buggy. He likes to kill newbies." "Great," Ren dusted off his tunic. "A homicidal teacher. Just like high school." He looked toward the horizon, where the purple mountains of the high-level zones loomed. "Let's go to Wonderland."